Said the one thing you never want to happen is you never want Russia and China uniting. We united them because of the oil. We united them. Biden united them. It's a shame. The stupidity of what they've done. Well, I'm going to have to ununite them, and I think I can do that too.
As Donald Trump prepares to re-enter the Oval Office in just 4 weeks, he has vowed to solve America's foreign policy problems using what he termed the Trump Doctrine. The guiding motto of this doctrine is simple: never bring a knife to a gun. Nuclear war. However, central to this doctrine is a comprehensive strategy known as Project 2025. But how do you fight fire when the flames are nuclear? And can an umbrella of allies hold steady in a storm of global chaos? Don't go anywhere as we unravel how this Trump doctrine is shaping the future of geopolitics and why it has Russia and China losing sleep.
A nation that is not prepared to win a war is a nation not capable of preventing a war.
The recent collapse of Bashar al-Assad's regime adds another complication in assessing what Trump will do on foreign policy events. On that score, Trump is inheriting a much messier world in 2025 than he did in 2017. Russia is waging war on Ukraine. China is intensifying its pressure on Taiwan. North Korea continues to grow its nuclear arsenal, while Iran could soon follow suit. To make matters worse, all 4 countries have increased their bilateral cooperation, raising the prospect of an axis of autocracies contesting and exhausting U.S. power. To add insult to injury, NATO allies are falling short in their financial commitments, forcing America to shoulder more than its fair share. We will discuss more on that later in the video. In the meantime, Trump has argued for months that all would have been well with the world had he been president for the past 4 years. And it is, arguably, true. Recall that during Trump's presidency, the U.S. defense budget saw unprecedented increases. The fiscal year 2018 saw a defense budget of $700 billion, which was the largest in history at that time. This budget continued to grow, surpassing $740 billion in fiscal year 2021. Such financial backing was crucial for implementing new strategies aimed at countering threats from global powers like Russia and China. Trump's philosophy is simple. If you carry a big enough stick, you might not need to swing it. But the burning question remains: how will Trump wield this doctrine? What happens if Russia makes major advances in Ukraine, China invades Taiwan, Syria begins to resemble Libya, Iran goes nuclear, or some crisis no one is currently discussing erupts? Governing is not a campaign rally where promises can echo without consequence. In the Oval Office, action speaks louder than applause, and Trump knows this. What he also knows is that strength is not measured by words but by readiness to face the storm before it hits. That is why the central component of Trump's doctrine is the modernization and expansion of America's nuclear arsenal.
We must modernize and rebuild our nuclear arsenal, hopefully never having to use it, but making it so strong and so powerful that it will deter any acts of aggression by any other nation or anyone else.
It goes without saying that Russia maintains a substantial nuclear stockpile, estimated at approximately 6,375 nuclear warheads, while China has been rapidly expanding its own arsenal, which is projected to reach around 1,500 warheads by 2030. In response to these developments, Project 2025 calls for increasing the size and sophistication of the U.S. nuclear force to ensure it can deter both adversaries simultaneously. It is like ensuring the roof is solid before the storm clouds gather. It is not paranoia, it is preparation. However, the jewel in the crown of this plan is the replacement of aging Minuteman III missiles with the Ground-Based Strategic Deterrent, GBSD. This $85 billion initiative is a signal to adversaries that America is not resting on its laurels. Meanwhile, missile defense takes center stage, with plans to expand ground-based interceptors, GBIs, in Alaska from 44 to 64. It's an expensive endeavor. Each interceptor costs $24 million. But as they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. A prevention that will come in the form of a massive upgrade to the U.S. space program. You don't have to be an astronaut or work in NASA to know that space is the final frontier of modern warfare. Under Trump's leadership, the U.S. Space Force took shape, dedicated to defending against threats from above. The administration proposed a space-based layer of sensors and interceptors, a system that could neutralize missiles before they even enter U.S. airspace, because when the battlefield shifts to the stars, only those who aim high will prevail. And then there is the Middle East, the Achilles heel of the U.S. for over a century. However, the good news is that Trump has decided to wear a shin guard on that heel, recently sending mixed signals on how he plans to tackle the region's challenges. Earlier this month, he warned that there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East if the remaining hostages taken by Hamas on October 7th are not released before January 20th. While he hasn't explicitly stated what actions he would take or whom he would target, the message was clear. The clock is ticking, and America won't sit idly by.
I took a lot of heat from the press for that. We spend far more than we should be spending on NATO. These other countries, which many of them are very rich, they don't spend.
You see, this burden-sharing debate isn't new. During Trump's first tenure in office, many NATO members were falling short of the agreed-upon target of spending 2% of their GDP on defense, a commitment made in response to Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. To put it into perspective, only 5 out of 29 member countries met this target. However, by 2023, that number had increased to 11, thanks largely to Trump's pressure. In 2018, during a contentious NATO summit, Trump raised the stakes by suggesting that the alliance should aim for a defense spending target of 4% of GDP instead of the existing 2%. This bold proposal sent shockwaves through Europe, but also sparked action. Countries like Germany began ramping up their military budgets. In fact, Germany announced it would meet the 2% target for the first time in 3 decades. The German defense budget was projected to reach $60 billion, approximately $66 billion, by 2024, demonstrating a significant shift in its military posture. Trump's approach was not merely rhetorical. It had tangible effects on NATO's collective capabilities. The alliance collectively increased its defense spending by over $130 billion from 2016 to 2020, with projections indicating that this trend would continue. In 2021 alone, NATO members spent around $1 trillion on defense, marking a historic high and reflecting a renewed commitment to collective security. As Trump prepares for another term in office, he has reiterated his commitment to pushing NATO allies further. His campaign has pledged to advocate for an increase in defense spending targets from 2% to 3% of GDP. He argues that a stronger NATO is essential not only for European security, but also for countering China's growing influence globally. In his view, allies must step up their contributions if they expect U.S. support in times of crisis. In other words, allies who want Uncle Trump's umbrella in the storm must help hold it steady.
NATO was busted until I came along. I said, everybody's going to pay. They said, well, if we don't pay, are you still going to protect us? I said, absolutely not. They couldn't believe the answer. I came in, I made a speech, and I said, you got to pay up. They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills. Most politicians have said to that, yes, we will protect you under any circumstance. Well, then they're never paying up. I said, no, you have to understand, you don't pay your bills, you get no protection. It's very simple. Hundreds of billions of dollars came into NATO, and that's why they have money today, because of what I did.
The implications of this proposed increase are significant. Achieving a 3% target would require an additional $100 billion in annual defense spending from NATO allies. This financial commitment would bolster military readiness and capabilities across Europe and enhance deterrence against both Russia and China. For instance, countries like Poland and the Baltic states, already aware of the dangers lurking on their borders, will likely welcome Trump's demands with open arms because they've realized you don't wait until the wolf's at the door to lock the barn. Moreover, Trump's emphasis on burden sharing aligns with broader strategic goals. By encouraging European nations to invest more in their own defense capabilities, He aims to reduce America's military footprint while ensuring that allies can independently address regional threats. This shift is particularly relevant given recent geopolitical developments, including Russia's aggressive actions in Ukraine and China's assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific region. In terms of specific military capabilities, Trump's administration has supported initiatives such as enhancing air and missile defense systems across Europe and increasing troop deployments in Eastern Europe as a deterrent against Russian aggression. For example, the U.S. has committed to maintaining approximately 5,000 troops in Poland as part of its enhanced forward presence strategy. As the old saying goes, a stitch in time saves 9. And these steps are doing just that, dissuading aggression before it has a chance to bloom into conflict. But it's not just the military picture that's evolving. Trump recently found himself in Paris at the invitation of French President Emmanuel Macron, attending the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral. While in the City of Lights, Trump met with Macron and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss ways to end the war in Ukraine.
President-elect Trump met with France's President Macron as well as Ukrainian President Zelensky.
It was Trump's first meeting with Zelensky since his election last month, and it followed up on discussions that Trump aides have recently had with Ukrainian officials. The three leaders did not come to any agreement. After the meeting, however, Trump did post on Truth Social, calling on Russian President Vladimir Putin to negotiate the war's end. I know Vladimir well. This is his time to act. China can help. The world is waiting. Putin has given no signs that he is willing to end the war on any terms other than those he dictates. But again, a deteriorating Russian economy might force his hand, much like a horse that's backed into a corner. In the meantime, Alexander Gabuev speculated in Foreign Affairs about how Trump will respond to deepening ties between China and Russia. Gabuev's guess is that he might seek to damage the Chinese-Russian partnership by easing tensions with Moscow, and even improving ties in order to put pressure on Beijing. Something like the reverse of what Secretary of State Henry Kissinger orchestrated more than 50 years ago, when the United States pursued détente with China to exploit the Sino-Soviet split. He's got a point, but as history shows, it's one thing to exploit a rift that's already there, quite another to try and create one where none exists. Moreover, Kissinger's success came when there was already a rift between the Soviet Union and China, not when they were two peas in a pod. Trump has long claimed that he's a master at the art of the deal. Well, his foreign policy inbox is about to get a serious workout, but if we know anything about him, it's that he is a man of will, and like they say, where there's a will, there's always a way. Just like an old farmer knows when it's time to sow and when to reap, Trump knows when to push and when to let things settle. And when it comes to foreign policy, you can bet he'll keep things moving forward no matter the challenge. So how do you fight fire when the flames are nuclear? You can't. And can an umbrella of allies hold steady in a storm of global chaos? Yes, if only they are 100% united and committed. Like and share this video to spread awareness. If you haven't already, subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on our future content.